Admiral Sarah stood in the observation deck of the massive ship called Exodus Prime. The stars outside looked like tiny diamonds scattered across black cloth. She had seen these same stars every day for the past 50 years, but today felt different. Today, everything would change. In her hand, she held a small device that looked like a metal coin. When she pressed it, holographic images filled the air around her. The images showed Earth as it once was: blue oceans, green lands, white clouds swirling around a beautiful world. Then the images changed, showing fire and death. The ships had come like angry wasps. They were huge, black things that blocked out the sun. Sarah had been just a child then, but she remembered the fear in her mother's eyes as they ran to the escape ships. They had powerful weapons that burned everything they touched. They turned Earth's cities into glass and ash. "We had to leave everything behind," Sarah whispered to herself, watching the old images play again. Her ancestors had built great cities, made beautiful art, and written thousands of books. All of it was gone in just 3 days of burning. The evacuation had been chaos. Millions of humans packed into whatever ships could fly. Some went to the outer planets of their solar system. Others traveled to distant stars, hopping to find new homes. The lucky ones made it to ships like Exodus Prime, massive vessels built to carry entire communities through space for hundreds of years. Sarah touched another button on her device. New images appeared, showing the human colonies that now existed across the galaxy. On cold worlds covered in ice, humans had built underground cities powered by heat from the planet's core. On desert planets with 3 suns, humans wore special suits and lived in dome cities. Some humans now lived their entire lives in space stations, never touching solid ground. Each group of humans had changed over the thousands of years. The ones on heavy worlds had grown stronger and taller. The ones who lived in space had developed better eyes for seeing in the dark. The ice world humans could survive cold that would kill their ancestors. Humans had not just survived, they had become something more. A soft beep came from Sarah's communication device. She pressed a button, and the face of Doctor appeared in the air. He was the head scientist on Exodus Prime, an old man with gray hair and kind eyes. "Admiral, the probe has returned," Doctor said. His voice carried excitement that he was trying to hide. "You need to see this information right away." Sarah walked quickly through the corridors of her ship. Exodus Prime was like a flying city, with millions of people living inside it. She passed gardens where food was grown under artificial suns, schools where children learned about the lost Earth, and workshops where engineers built new machines. Everything here had one purpose: to keep humanity alive until they could go home. She reached the main control center, where dozens of people worked at computer stations. Doctor was waiting for her with a group of other scientists and officers. Their faces showed a mixture of hope and worry. "Show me," Sarah said. The main screen lit up with a map of the galaxy. Doctor pointed to a section colored red. This was space. They controlled hundreds of star systems, enslaving or destroying every species they found. He touched a button, and the red areas began to change color. But look at this. The red was turning to orange, then yellow, then gray. "The Empire is falling apart," Doctor explained. "Their species has split into fighting groups. They're too busy destroying each other to maintain their empire." Sarah felt her heart beat faster. "What about Earth?" Doctor smiled for the first time in years. "Earth is free, Admiral. They abandoned it 500 years ago. According to our probe, the planet is healing itself." Images of Earth appeared on the screen. It didn't look exactly like the old pictures. The oceans were silver instead of blue, and the continents had golden areas instead of green. But it was beautiful in a new way. "The left machines behind," Doctor continued. "These machines have been fixing the damage for centuries. They've cleaned the air, purified the water, and even brought back some of the plants and animals." Sarah studied the images carefully. "Is it safe for humans?" The atmosphere is breathable. The radiation levels are normal, but there's something else. Doctor's expression became serious. Earth isn't empty. A group called the Scavenger Lords is using it as their base. They're raiders who steal from the fallen colonies. Sarah clenched her fists. The thought of strangers living on humanities made her angry. Earth belonged to humans. Their ancestors had lived there for millions of years before they came. "How many ships do they have?" she asked. "Our probe counted about 200 vessels. They're not military ships, mostly converted cargo haulers and mining equipment. They shouldn't be difficult to defeat." Sarah walked to the center of the room and looked at everyone present. These people had spent their entire lives dreaming of this moment. Some were born on Exodus Prime and had never seen a real planet. Others remembered Earth from their childhood. All of them wanted to go home. "Send the recall signal," Sarah ordered. Doctor's eyes widened. "Admiral, are you certain? Once we send that signal, every human colony in the galaxy will receive it. There's no taking it back." Sarah thought about her grandmother's stories of Earth's mountains and forests. She thought about the millions of humans scattered across the stars, many of whom had never heard their ancestral world was still intact. She thought about the scavenger lords who dared to claim what wasn't theirs. "I'm certain," she said firmly. "It's time for humanity to come home." Doctor nodded and began typing commands into his computer. A low humming sound filled the room as the ship's most powerful communication system activated. The signal would travel faster than light, reaching human colonies thousands of light years away. Sarah looked out at the stars one more time. Somewhere out there was Earth burned but healing, waiting for its children to return. After 3,000 years of exile, the long journey home was finally beginning. The signal traveled through space faster than anything else could move. It reached the ice miners of 442b first, cutting through their daily work routine like a lightning bolt. Commander was deep underground when her communication device started flashing with an emergency pattern she had only read about in old history books. The recall signal. After 3,000 years, humanity was being called home. Dropped her mining tools and ran to the surface elevator. Around her, other miners were doing the same thing. Nobody spoke during the long ride up, but she could see the same mixture of disbelief and excitement on every face. When the elevator doors opened, saw the silver light of 442b's 3 moons reflecting off the ice plains that stretched to the horizon. In the main colony building, hundreds of people crowded around communication screens. The message was simple but powerful. Earth is free. All human colonies prepare for return. Exodus Prime coordinates attached. Admiral commanding. Looked at her people. The ice world humans had evolved over the centuries. They were taller than their ancestors, with thicker bones and better circulation to handle the cold. Their pale skin could process tiny amounts of light into vitamin D, and their eyes could see clearly even in the dim light of their distant sun. "Commander," said her second-in-command, a young woman named Maria Santos, "what are your orders?" Thought about their ships. The ice miners had 12 vessels designed for hauling frozen gases between star systems. They weren't warships, but they were tough and reliable. "Start loading the ships," she decided. "Take everything we can carry: food, medical supplies, mining equipment. If Earth needs rebuilding, we'll be ready." Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, the message reached Titan Station. This was a massive structure built inside a hollowed-out asteroid, spinning slowly to create artificial gravity. The humans here were different again, smaller and more flexible, adapted to life in zero gravity and cramped spaces. Captain Jake floated in the station's command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the movement of hundreds of ships. Titan Station was a trading hub where merchants from dozens of human colonies came to buy and sell goods. When the recall signal arrived, every human ship in the area received it at the same time. "This changes everything," Jake said to his crew. Cancel all trading agreements. Send messages to every human ship within 100 light years. Tell them to meet at these coordinates. He pointed to the location Admiral had provided. The Void Walkers were known as the best pilots in human space. They could navigate through asteroid fields and gas clouds that would destroy other ships. Their vessels were sleek and fast, built for speed rather than comfort. Within hours, 50 Void Walker ships were preparing to leave Titan Station. On the heavy world of 876D, the message arrived during the morning shift change. The gravity here was 3 times stronger than old Earth's, and the humans who lived here had become incredibly strong and resilient. Their leader, General Stone, was a giant of a man who could crush metal with his bare hands. The Heavy had always been more military-minded than other human colonies. They maintained a fleet of warships and trained constantly for combat. When the recall signal came, they were ready to fight. "Brothers and sisters," General Stone announced over the colony's communication system. "The day we have trained for has finally come. Earth calls us home, but we will not return as beggars. We go as warriors, ready to take back what was stolen from us." The Heavy world ships were massive, armored vessels designed to punch through enemy defenses. They moved slowly, but they could take enormous amounts of damage and keep fighting. 25 Heavy world battleships began their journey toward the rendezvous point. In the research stations orbiting the binary stars of Alpha, the scientists received the signal with careful analysis. Dr. Lisa, no relation to Admiral Sarah, was humanity's leading expert on alien technology. Her people had spent centuries studying captured equipment and other alien devices. "This is remarkable timing," Doctor told her research team. "We've just completed our analysis of the new quantum fold drive technology. Our ships can now travel 10 times faster than anything they ever built." The science ships were small but packed with advanced technology. They carried sensors that could detect objects from light years away, computers that could break alien codes in minutes, and medical equipment that could heal injuries thought impossible to cure. 15 science vessels joined the growing fleet. From the agricultural world came the food ship's massive cargo vessels filled with protein synthesizers and hydroponic gardens. The mining colonies sent ships loaded with raw materials and manufacturing equipment. The medical stations contributed hospital ships with advanced surgical facilities. But the most surprising response came from New Geneva, a colony that most other humans barely knew existed. The settlers there had been experimenting with something dangerous and controversial, joining their minds together through advanced computer implants. They called themselves the Collective. When the recall signal reached New Geneva, the response wasn't just from one person. 500 humans spoke at the same time, their voices perfectly synchronized through their mental link. "We hear the call of our," they said. "The Collective will return to Earth, bringing gifts of knowledge and unity." Their ship was unlike any other in the human fleet, a crystalline structure that seemed to grow rather than being built. Inside, the crew worked together like parts of a single organism, anticipating each other's actions and thoughts. Admiral watched the reports flooding in from across the galaxy. Hundreds of ships were converging on the meeting point she had chosen, an empty star system halfway between Earth and the outer colonies. Some would take weeks to arrive, others might take months, but they were all coming. Doctor stood beside her, reading the manifest of arriving vessels. "This is incredible, Admiral. We have over 800 ships confirmed, with more joining every day. Mining ships, warships, hospital ships, research vessels. It's the largest human fleet ever assembled." Sarah nodded, but her expression remained serious. "It's not just about numbers. Look at what we've become." She gestured to the reports describing the different human subspecies. 3,000 years of separation has changed us. We're not the same people who fled Earth. "Is that a problem?" Doctor asked. Sarah considered the question carefully. The ice were tough survivors. The void walkers were brilliant pilots. The heavy were powerful warriors. The scientists had advanced technology. The agricultural colonies could feed millions. The collective brought unprecedented coordination abilities. "No," she said finally. "It's our greatest strength. The scattered us thinking it would make us weak. Instead, it made us into something they never expected, a species that could adapt to anything." The first ships began arriving at the rendezvous point 3 weeks after the recall signal was sent. Admiral watched through the observation windows as vessels of every size and design took their positions in the growing formation. Each ship represented years of preparation, hope, and determination. But gathering the fleet was only the beginning. Soon they would face the real challenge, fighting their way back to Earth and dealing with whatever awaited them there. The human fleet emerged from quantum space like a storm breaking over calm waters. One moment the edge of the solar system was empty, and the next moment it contained over 1,000 ships of every imaginable design. Admiral stood on the bridge of Exodus Prime, watching her screens as the formation took shape around her flagship. Earth hung in the distance like a jewel that had been polished by time. The planet looked different from the old pictures. The oceans gleamed silver under the sun's light, and the continents showed patches of gold mixed with green and brown. It was beautiful, but alien in a way that made his heart ache. "Long-range sensors are detecting movement near Earth," reported Lieutenant, the young officer at the sensor station. "Approximately 200 vessels, various sizes. They're moving to intercept us." Nodded grimly. The scavenger lords had noticed their arrival. Through her communication system, she could hear chatter from the different human fleets. The heavy were eager for battle. The void walkers were analyzing enemy ship movements. The scientists were taking detailed scans of everything. "This is General Stone of the Heavy World Fleet," came a deep voice over the communication channel. "Admiral, my ships are ready to clear these scavengers from our home system." "Hold position, General," replied firmly. "Let them come to us first. I want to see what we're dealing with." The scavenger lord fleet approached in a ragged formation. Their ships were a mixture of stolen technology, converted cargo haulers, and jury-rigged mining equipment. They looked dangerous but disorganized, like pirates who had never faced real military opposition. The lead scavenger ship sent a communication signal. The alien face that appeared on screen was reptilian, with scales instead of skin and multiple eyes arranged around a central mouth filled with sharp teeth. "Unknown fleet," the alien said in broken English. "This system belongs to the scavenger lords. You pay tribute or you leave. Simple choice." Looked at the alien with disgust. This creature was living on humanities, demanding payment from Earth's rightful children. "This is Admiral Sarah of the Human Reclamation Fleet," she said coldly. "You are occupying human territory. Leave immediately or face the consequences." The alien's multiple eyes widened in what might have been surprise or amusement. "Humans, the burned species. You have no ships, no power. Earth is ours now." "You're wrong," said simply, and cut the communication. What happened next would be remembered in human history as the Battle of the Return. The scavenger lords attacked with typical pirate tactics, trying to surround and overwhelm the human fleet with numbers. But they had never fought humans before, and they didn't understand what 3,000 years of survival had created. The Void Walker ships moved like dancers, slipping between enemy vessels and striking at weak points. Their pilots could handle acceleration that would kill most other species, allowing them to make turns and maneuvers that seemed impossible. The heavy world battleships absorbed enemy fire without slowing down, their thick armor protecting them as they closed to weapon range. The ice world ships coordinated their attacks with mathematical precision. Their crews had learned to work together in the dangerous environment of asteroid mining, where one mistake could kill everyone. The science ships used advanced scanners to identify weaknesses in enemy vessels, and shared the information instantly with the combat ships. But it was the collective that truly shocked the scavenger lords. Their crystalline ship seemed to anticipate every enemy move, dodging attacks that hadn't been fired yet and striking at targets that other ships couldn't see. The 500 humans aboard thought and acted as one, creating a level of coordination no individual mind could achieve. The battle lasted less than 2 hours. When it was over, half the scavenger lord ships had been destroyed and the rest were fleeing toward the outer planets. Not a single human vessel had been lost, though several showed damage from enemy weapons. That was almost too easy, General Stone commented over the communication channel. Don't get overconfident, warned. The real challenge starts now. The human fleet moved toward Earth slowly, scanning everything as they approached. The planet's surface showed signs of massive engineering projects, vast networks of silver lines that might be transportation systems, golden towers that reached into the atmosphere, and structures that seemed to be growing rather than built. Doctor studied the sensor readings with growing amazement. Admiral, the atmosphere is not just breathable, it's better than old Earth's. Higher oxygen content, no pollution, perfect temperature regulation. And the life signs. There are plants and animals down there that shouldn't exist. The first landing teams launched in small shuttles, heading for what had once been North America, watched nervously as the craft descended through Earth's atmosphere. These were her best people, Marines from the heavy world colonies, scientists from the research stations, and engineers from the ice mining operations. The shuttle landed near what had been New York City. The Marines stepped out first, their weapons ready, but they found no immediate threats. Where humanity's greatest city had once stood, there was now a forest of crystal trees that sparkled in the sunlight. Rivers of clear water flowed between them, and strange but beautiful creatures moved through the shadows. "It's like a fairy tale," whispered Marine Sergeant into his communicator. His voice carried wonder instead of fear. The scientists began taking readings immediately. "The crystal trees are artificial," reported Doctor, the team's biologist. "They're some kind of atmospheric processors, converting carbon dioxide and producing oxygen. But they're also beautiful. Whoever designed them cared about aesthetics as well as function." As the teams explored further, they made an incredible discovery. Hidden beneath the crystal forest was an entrance to an underground facility. The door was clearly human in design, though it was made from materials that didn't exist when humanity had fled Earth. Inside the facility, they found something that made Admiral cry when she saw the video transmission. It was a vast chamber filled with tanks containing genetic material from Earth's lost species. Tigers, elephants, whales, and thousands of other creatures that had been extinct were preserved here in perfect condition. A holographic message activated as the team entered the main chamber. It showed a human woman in a uniform that predated the invasion by centuries. "If you're seeing this message, it means humanity has finally returned to Earth," the woman said. "My name is Dr. Sarah, and I was part of the Deep Preservation Project. We knew they were coming, and we knew we wouldn't be able to save everything, but we could save the genetic patterns of our world's life." The hologram gestured to the tanks around her. "These facilities exist all over the planet. The terraforming machines have been programmed to maintain them. When you're ready, you can bring back every species that Earth has lost. This is our gift to the future, a chance to make our world whole again." Admiral watched the message from orbit, tears streaming down her face. Her ancestors hadn't just fled Earth, they had planned for this moment. They had known that someday their descendants would return. But as the landing teams explored more of the planet, they found signs that something else was stirring. Deep beneath the surface, in caverns that predated human civilization, ancient machines were beginning to activate. The return of humanity to Earth had awakened something that had been sleeping for millions of years. The celebration of coming home would have to wait. Earth held secrets that no one had expected, and humanity's greatest challenges still lay ahead. 3 weeks after the first landing, human settlements were spreading across Earth's surface. The Heavy had established a military base in what had once been Europe, while the scientists built research stations near the genetic preservation facilities. The ice miners were working to extract resources from the polar regions, and the agricultural specialists were learning how to work with the strange new ecosystems. But it was from the ice mining colonies, who made the discovery that changed everything. She had been exploring the ruins of an old installation in what had been the Sahara Desert when her scanners detected something unusual beneath the sand. "Admiral," she called over the communication system, her voice tight with excitement. "You need to see this immediately." Took a shuttle down to the surface, along with Doctor and a team of Marine guards. The desert had changed dramatically since the terraforming. Instead of endless sand, there were now crystalline formations that collected moisture from the air and strange plants that thrived in the intense heat. Doctor met them at the entrance to what looked like a natural cave. They built their installation directly on top of this, she explained as they descended into the depths. "I think they were trying to study what's down here, but they never figured it out." The cave led to a tunnel that had clearly been carved by intelligent hands. The walls were smooth and covered with patterns that seemed to shift when you looked at them directly. After walking for nearly a mile underground, they emerged into a vast chamber that took breath away. The space was enormous, easily the size of a city. The ceiling disappeared into darkness far above their heads, supported by pillars that looked like they were grown rather than built. But it was the technology that filled the chamber that made everyone stare in amazement. Massive machines lined the walls, their surfaces covered in panels and controls that glowed with soft blue light. The designs were alien but somehow familiar, as if they had been created by a species that thought in ways similar to humans. Strange symbols covered every surface, forming patterns that hurt to look at for too long. "How old is this?" asked. Doctor checked her instruments. "The rock around us is natural limestone, about 200 million years old, but these machines—" She shook her head in disbelief. "The metal contains isotopes that should have decayed millions of years ago. This technology is ancient beyond anything we've ever found." Doctor approached one of the control panels carefully. The symbols seemed to respond to his presence, glowing brighter as he got closer. "Admiral, these patterns. They look almost like neural networks, like brain scans of some kind." As if responding to his words, the machines began to hum with power. Lights started activating throughout the chamber, and the symbols on the walls began moving, rearranging themselves into new patterns. The team backed away nervously, but the machines didn't seem threatening, just awakening after a long sleep. A holographic display suddenly appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a map of the galaxy, but not as it looked now. This was the galaxy as it had been millions of years ago, with different star positions and solar systems that no longer existed. "This is incredible," Doctor whispered. "This technology is older than our solar system, but why is it activating now?" Had a terrible suspicion. "It's responding to human presence. These machines have been waiting for us." Over the following days, exploration teams found similar chambers all over Earth. They were always deep underground, always hidden beneath natural formations or later construction. They had built installations near many of them, but the aliens had never managed to activate the ancient technology. Doctor led the research effort, working with scientists from across the human fleet. What they discovered was both amazing and terrifying. The ancient machines were clearly the work of a species that had existed long before humans evolved, but the technology was designed specifically for human minds. "Look at these control interfaces," Doctor explained to Admiral during a briefing. "The symbols change based on how human brain waves interact with them. It's like the builders knew exactly how our species would think and process information. That's impossible, said. Humans didn't exist when these machines were built. Unless, Doctor said quietly, they built the machines for us specifically. What if this entire planet was designed as some kind of inheritance for humanity? The implications were staggering. Earth hadn't just been humanity's. It had been prepared for them by an ancient civilization that had disappeared before humans even evolved. The invasion, the great burning, the 3,000 years of exile, it all might have been part of some vast plan. But the most disturbing discovery came when Doctor managed to partially activate one of the neural interface systems. As soon as human thoughts touched the ancient network, signals began broadcasting out from Earth into deep space. "We're sending a message," she reported urgently. "The machines are transmitting something toward the galactic core. I can't stop it. The system is running automatically." Admiral felt cold fear settle in her stomach. What kind of message? "It's complex, but the basic meaning is clear," Doctor said. "It's announcing that Earth's inheritors have returned, and it's calling something home." The response came faster than anyone expected. Long-range sensors detected movement near the galactic core, massive objects, accelerating toward human space at incredible speeds. Whatever was coming was bigger than anything the human fleet had ever seen. Doctor analyzed the sensor data with growing alarm. "Admiral, these objects are enormous. Each one is the size of a small moon, and they're moving at speeds that should be impossible. They'll reach Earth in less than 6 months." Gathered her top officers and scientists for an emergency meeting. The conference room aboard Exodus Prime was filled with representatives from every human colony: ice miners, void walkers, heavy scientists, and even a spokesperson for the collective. "We have a choice to make," told them. "We can run again, scatter across the galaxy like we did 3,000 years ago, or we can stay and fight for our world." General Stone slammed his fist on the table. "We didn't come this far just to run away again. Whatever's coming, we'll face it here." The representative from the collective spoke in the synchronized voice of 500 minds. "The ancient machines are still activating. If we stay, we might learn to use their power. The knowledge they contain could make us stronger than we've ever been." But Doctor had been studying the data from the neural interfaces, and her discovery chilled everyone present. "The beings that are coming, I think they're called the hierarchs. They're not just ancient enemies. According to the machine records, they're the ones who destroyed the original builders of this technology. They've been waiting in the galactic core for millions of years, and our return to Earth is what they've been watching for." Looked around the table at the faces of humanity's leaders. They had come so far, survived so much, only to discover that their homecoming might have doomed them all. "Then we prepare," she said firmly. "If Earth was meant to be our inheritance, we'll claim it. And if the hierarchs want to take it from us, they'll learn what 3,000 years of survival has taught humanity about fighting for what's ours." The ancient machines continued their awakening, and in the depths of space, something vast and terrible began its journey toward Earth. 6 months later, the hierarchs arrived at Earth like a plague of metal locusts. Their ships were vast geometric structures that twisted space around them, each one the size of a small moon and covered in weapons that could destroy entire fleets. They emerged from quantum space in perfect formation, blocking out the stars with their dark hulls. Admiral stood in the command center deep beneath Earth's surface, connected to the ancient machine network through a neural interface that Doctor had helped her learn to use. The sensation was overwhelming. She could feel the thoughts of every human on the planet, sense the movement of every ship in orbit, and touch the vast electronic mind that Earth itself had become. The planet was no longer just a world, it was a weapon. The precursor machines had spent 6 months integrating with human consciousness, learning how their inheritors thought and felt. Crystalline formations across Earth's surface pulsed with energy that could reshape matter at the atomic level. The silver oceans had become vast computational networks that could process information faster than any computer. The golden continents were covered in defense systems that responded to human will. "Hierarchs are broadcasting," reported Lieutenant, though his voice seemed to come from very far away. Consciousness was spread across the entire planet now, experiencing reality on a scale no human had ever known. The message from the enemy fleet was simple and terrible. "Humans of the lost world, you have awakened what should have remained sleeping. Surrender the precursor inheritance and we will allow your species to exist as servants, refuse, and we will complete what the began." Opened her eyes, though she wasn't sure if they were her physical eyes or the sensors of the planetary network. She could see the Hierarch fleet clearly now, not just their ships, but the ancient minds that controlled them. These beings were old beyond imagination, survivors from the early days of the galaxy when only the strongest species endured. But they had made a crucial mistake. They assumed that humanity was still the same frightened species that had fled Earth 3,000 years ago. "This is Admiral Sarah," she replied, her voice carried by transmission systems across the entire planet and broadcast into space. "We are the inheritors of Earth, evolved through exile and strengthened by struggle. You are not welcome in our home system." The Hierarch response was immediate and overwhelming. Beams of energy that could cut planets in half lanced down from their ships, striking Earth's surface with enough force to create new mountain ranges. But the planet's defenses were ready. The crystalline formations across the continents absorbed the incoming energy and redirected it, turning the Hierarch weapons against their own ships. The silver oceans rose up in impossible waves that reached into space itself, wrapping around enemy vessels and crushing them like eggshells. The golden towers launched swarms of defensive drones that thought and moved like living creatures. But the real battle was happening on a level that most humans couldn't see. And the other neural interface operators, volunteers from every human colony, were fighting in a realm of pure thought and energy. The Hierarchs had expected to face primitive minds, but instead they encountered a species that had learned to adapt to anything. The Ice World humans brought clarity of thought that could cut through the Hierarchs' mental attacks. The Heavy provided strength of will that could not be broken. The Void Walkers offered flexibility of mind that allowed them to navigate the strange dimensions where the battle was being fought. The scientists contributed knowledge and analysis that revealed weaknesses in enemy defenses. And the collective brought something the Hierarchs had never faced: perfect unity combined with individual creativity. 500 minds thinking as one, but each contributing unique perspectives and abilities. General Stone had volunteered to link his consciousness to one of Earth's largest weapon systems. His voice echoed across the planet as he directed devastating attacks against the enemy fleet. "This is for every human who died in the burning," he roared, and a beam of coherent matter struck a Hierarch ship so hard that it simply ceased to exist. The Hierarchs fought back with weapons that attacked the mind directly, trying to drive the human operators insane with visions of horror and despair. But humanity had lived with horror for 3,000 years. They had seen their world burn, watched loved ones die in space, struggled to survive on alien worlds that tried to kill them every day. Doctor, connected to the archaeological networks, discovered the truth about the ancient war. "The precursors didn't just build this technology for us," she reported through the neural link. "They were like us, a species that refused to surrender when the Hierarchs tried to conquer them. They hid their legacy here, waiting for another species that could carry on their fight." The battle raged across multiple dimensions. In normal space, the human fleet engaged Hierarch ships with weapons powered by Earth's crystalline formations. In quantum space, human consciousness wrestled with alien minds that had conquered 100 species. In the electromagnetic spectrum, competing signals tried to override each other's control systems. But slowly, impossibly, humanity began to win. The hierarchs had expected to face a primitive species with basic technology. Instead, they found themselves fighting an entire planet that thought and moved as one organism, directed by a species that had learned to thrive in any environment. The turning point came when realized something crucial about the enemy. The hierarchs were ancient and powerful, but they hadn't changed in millions of years. They conquered through strength and intimidation, crushing opposition with overwhelming force. But they had no idea how to handle an opponent that could adapt and evolve in the middle of battle. "They're afraid," she announced through the planetary network. "They're afraid because we represent something they've never seen before, a species that gets stronger from being scattered and broken." Working together, the human consciousness began to do something that the hierarchs considered impossible. Instead of just fighting their enemies, they began to change them. The precursor technology allowed for manipulation at the level of thought itself, and humanity used it to offer the hierarchs something they had forgotten in their millions of years of conquest: the possibility of growth. One by one, hierarch ships stopped firing. Their crews, touched by human thoughts of cooperation and adaptation, began to question the endless cycle of domination that had defined their existence. Some resisted and were destroyed by Earth's defenses, but others chose to change, to become something new. When the battle finally ended, Earth's sky was filled with ships of strange design hierarch vessels, transformed by human ingenuity into something that served creation rather than destruction. The ancient enemy had become allies, partners in building a galaxy where no species would ever again face extinction alone. Admiral disconnected from the neural network and found herself back in her physical body, surrounded by her officers and friends. Through the observation windows, she could see Earth's new sky silver and gold, filled with ships from 100 different species, all working together to build something beautiful. "What happens now?" Doctor asked. Smiled, feeling truly at peace for the first time in her life. "Now we build the galaxy our ancestors dreamed of. A place where being scattered makes us stronger, where being different makes us valuable, and where coming home means bringing everyone with us." Earth was no longer just humanity's. It had become the heart of a new kind of civilization, one where the lessons of exile and survival would ensure that no species would ever burn alone again.